Hi and welcome. I'm Ashleigh Frankel, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with you about how to unwind your anxious mind. I had the pleasure of speaking at the QuickBooks Connect conference in Toronto in 2018 and 2019. And while 2020 is shaping up to look a little different, a lot different, I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to meet you here virtually. As co-founder of the WiseMind Company, I've been working with organizations to create well-work cultures where individuals and businesses flourish. Our work focuses on developing the human skills, like resilience, that are foundational for exceptional leadership and sustainable well-being. These soft skills are really core skills, and I think right now, more than ever, we're starting to understand just how critical they are. In our time together today, we're going to explore what anxiety is and how it manifests itself. We're going to start there because one of the most important parts is that we start to have awareness of our anxiety so that we can then begin to learn to navigate it. We're then going to go into 4 on-the-go evidence-based practices you can use anytime to unwind your anxious mind and access calm and clarity. Before we go any further, I just want to pause here and acknowledge what a challenging and unique time we are all navigating right now. And I want to invite you to just take a moment and acknowledge yourself for taking the time to invest in you today, in cultivating the internal resources to help you navigate through this challenging time with greater ease and effectiveness. Much of these last few months, my mind has felt like this image, busy, worried, and even distracted. I wonder if you can relate to this as well. You know that old adage that we're living in interesting times? I feel like it's time it gets rewritten because by all accounts, we're living in really anxious times. If you've been feeling a heightened sense of anxiety, I want you to know that you're not alone. COVID has created the optimal conditions for day-to-day anxiety to spike. And here's why. As Dr. Judson Brewer, professor of psychiatry, explains it, fear plus uncertainty give rise to anxiety. Anxiety arises when our brains don't have enough information to accurately predict the future. Day-to-day anxiety, which is what we're focusing on today, is a very normal response in circumstances like we're in right now, given how pervasive uncertainty is and how much fear surrounds us. And it's uncertainty and fear that really hits at some of the foundational pillars of our own sense of security and stability, things like our health, our relationships, the way we socialize, the way we live, and the way we work, or if we're working at all. Here's the thing. In small, short bursts, anxiety can help us optimize our performance, and it can help motivate us. When it's prolonged, though, and sustained, it can start to interfere with our well-being and our ability to perform. Sometimes, anxiety can get to the point where it becomes disordered. I've been there myself. So I really just want to take a moment here to acknowledge that if you're feeling like your anxiety levels are debilitating, if they're getting in the way of otherwise easy everyday activities, then I recommend that you reach out to a medical professional or a trusted therapist. There are incredible support pathways, and they can design personalized support for you based on your unique needs. You do not have to go it alone. There's certainly a lot going on in our lives that we can't control, despite our best efforts. But the one thing we can control is how we respond to it all. And that begins with our mind, which is why we begin with learning how to unwind our anxious mind. In order to unwind it, we must first recognize it. After all, we can't change what we're not aware of. It's worth taking a moment to reflect on how anxiety shows up for you. Are you aware of the signs that you're feeling anxious or stressed? I know for me, one of the first places I feel it is in the pit of my stomach, even before I've even realize that I'm thinking about anything that might be causing me distress or anxiety. So it's as soon as I notice that real butterflies in my stomach that I start tuning into, oh, there's anxiety. To help you with starting to familiarize yourself with how it manifests for you, just wanted to talk about two primary ways that anxiety shows up. This is simplified for our purposes, but it's sufficient. So anxiety tends to manifest itself in physical sensations and in our thinking. So for example, physical sensations, like I mentioned, the butterflies in your stomach, the tension that you might feel. So I tend to be a highly anxious person, so I've got a lot of this, but the tension in my jaw, I get tension in my jaw, and I get a lot of headaches too from the tension in my head. You might even notice tension in your chest. And sometimes it manifests as sweaty palms. You also might find yourself that if you really pay attention, and you might notice it going forward after this micro session, that you even walk or sit almost like you make yourself smaller. And it makes sense, right? Because anxiety is coming from fear. And when we're afraid, we just want to make ourselves feel safe. So I'll often notice that my body is feeling really tight and smaller. What's amazing when we start to recognize these things is we can just make simple adjustments to start to change them. Like when I notice that my body's all held up tight, I'll just open it up. And a simple change in the posture can start to make a really big difference. The other way that anxiety manifests itself is in our thinking. And this is where we are spending most of our time today. So when we're anxious, our thoughts tend to be characterized by worry, rumination. So you might think of a hamster wheel where you're just going over and over the same thought in your head repeatedly without making any progress or moving into any sort of positive action. And then there's catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is where you take everything that's happening and blow it out to the absolute worst case scenario. And you really start living from that place. Generally, our anxious thoughts are future focused. So anxiety really is about worrying mostly about the future. And they tend to be quite negative in nature because we become really fixated on this threat or perceived threat that's in our midst. So this type of thinking really reflects our brain desperately trying to sort out the future, to create certainty where there is no certainty. When we're in this state, the smart part of our brain, if you will, the part that's responsible for effective decision-making and creativity, connection, and problem-solving, perspective-taking, it goes offline, and we can't perform or show up at our best. And here's another thing. The way we tend to navigate anxiety is as counterproductive as the thinking. For most of us, anxiety and stress are not comfortable places to be. We do almost anything not to feel the feelings. And so I just want to invite you to think about, what do you do? How does anxiety, we talked about the way it impacts us in the sensations in our bodies and our thoughts, but it also shows up in our behaviors. So that's another great reflection, is to look at, how do I behave when I'm anxious? Most of us tend to do one of three things. We either numb it out. So this would look like sitting with the bowl of ice cream instead of sitting with your feelings, aimlessly scrolling through social media and finding yourself not really taking in anything inspiring or educational, but just the act of just scrolling, sitting in front of the 24/7 news cycle and hearing the same information coming at you over and over again. So those are some examples of numbing. And then there's running from it. Okay, so this is, I tend to find myself here. So you busy yourself. You try to solve everybody else's problems. You're trying to control a lot of the things in your life, down your kids' schedule, your own schedule, the weather. And then there's getting in the ring with it. And this is where we just tend to get all tangled up in those thoughts the unproductive thoughts. And the interesting thing is, while they're quite compelling, our thoughts are not facts. And in many instances, the anxious thoughts we have never come to pass. So this way of navigating with anxiety, it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because what you fight, you strengthen, and what you resist persists. So how do we skillfully work with our anxious mind? I'm going to share with you 4 evidence-based mindfulness practices to help you unwind your anxious mind and get that wise mind back online. Here we go. The first thing that we need to do is to center ourselves. So often with anxiety, we're up in our heads and we're everywhere but here in the present moment. Engaging with your senses is a really fast and simple way to center yourself and begin to calm your mind. Anxiety, by its very nature, loses its power in the present moment. So, what you want to do is interrupt the autopilot, future-focused thinking and help soothe your nervous system. The next time you notice your anxiety rising, I want to invite you to stop and come to your senses with this simple, what we refer to as a 3x3 practice. What you'll do, and you might even do it right now with me, is first listen and identify 3 things that you can hear in your immediate environment. So I hear the hum of a fan. I hear my stomach gurgling. And I hear the little clicks actually in my computer. So sometimes we have to work pretty hard to hear the 3 things. But as you're doing this, you're taking yourself out of your head and into the moment. And then the second one is to look around you and identify 3 things you can see. So I can see the camera that's in front of my face right now. I wish I could see you, but I can't. I can see a picture of my youngest child, and then I can see a second computer screen on my right. So just engaging in that practice, it takes just a minute or 2, but it can really be powerful in starting to help us unwind that anxiety. Our second practice also soothes the nervous system, and this is vagus or deep belly breathing. And this has the power to shift you from a stress response, your fight, flight, or freeze, to a relaxation response almost instantly. So just a little bit about why this works, because I find it so fascinating. The vagus nerve is the largest cranial nerve. It's actually a bundle of nerves, and it runs from the base of your skull into your abdomen. It's actually often referred to as the nerve of emotion. And this is because this neural pathway, which sends messages from the brain to your respiratory, digestive, and nervous system. So this neural pathway facilitates the ability to find calm. How? Well, it does that by activating your parasympathetic nervous system or your relaxation response. And as soon as it does that, the anxiety decreases, the stress response in the body decreases and starts to dissipate, along with even the inflammation in the body that's caused by stress. So all you need to do is stimulate this nerve, the vagus nerve. And you do that, one of the ways you do that is by slowing your breathing. So as adults, we take approximately 10 to 14 breaths a minute. And when we're anxious, we actually take more. So our breathing gets rapid and shallow. What we want to do is slow it down to about 7 breaths a minute. And so if you inhale for a count of 5 to 6, and then you exhale for a count of 5 to 6, that's going to get you there. While we're here together, why don't we give it a try? And you can see how shockingly effective this simple practice can be. So I just want to invite you to begin by, you can keep your eyes open. If you want to deepen the relaxation of this practice, you can close your eyes down, but you don't have to. And so we'll just begin by noticing our body breathing. So it's amazing. It's the most important thing we're doing at any moment, but how rarely we're noticing the breath. So your attention might go to your belly rising and falling, or your chest, maybe the cool air entering your nostrils as you inhale. And just resting your awareness there for a minute. And now I want to invite you to begin to deepen the breath. So I'm going to count us through the inhale and exhale for the first couple of breaths, and then I'll let you find your own rhythm for a couple breaths as well. So inhaling deep into the abdomen for a count of 3, 4, 5, stretching it to 6 if you can. And now exhaling fully and completely through your nose or your mouth, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And exhaling, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Why don't you take another breath cycle, finding your own rhythm, before inviting the breath to return to its natural rhythm. So slowly breathing in and slowly breathing out. And as the breath returns to its natural rhythm, just want you to reflect on what that experience was like for you. Did you notice any shift? Do you feel calmer, more relaxed, more clear-headed? Or maybe you didn't notice anything changing at all. You might also want to ask yourself, if you found that to be a positive experience, when might this be helpful for you? So I always find asking that question helps increase the chances that I'm going to use the practice. So if you're waking up feeling anxious, you might want to try starting your day instead of looking at your phone first, for example, or just hopping out of bed. You might want to try the vagus breathing in the morning. I find it highly effective. Or maybe before a difficult conversation, or if you're in back-to-back meetings, especially these virtual meetings, I find them more exhausting. Maybe taking a few deep breaths before the meetings to help center yourself. So it's going to be helpful for each of us in different ways. But the important part is that you start to explore how it might be beneficial for you. All right, let's look at the third practice. This is essentially a mental noting practice. The catchy phrase coined by Dr. Dan Siegel is "name it to tame it." So just for reference, Dan Siegel, he's a mentor of mine. He's a professor of clinical psychiatry at UCLA Medical School and also the founding co-director of the Mindful Awareness Research Center. This practice really is to bring attention to your emotions and your thoughts by simply becoming aware of them and then naming them. This counters the tendency to numb or run or judge, quite frankly, these more difficult and uncomfortable emotions and thoughts. What we're doing here in mindfulness, we refer to this as tending and befriending. It's also just about creating awareness and acceptance of the emotions that we're feeling, because the more we can accept them, actually, the faster they begin to dissipate. So to do that, the tone you use is really important. If we're using a harsh, judgmental tone, it's not going to be effective. So you want to be calm and compassionate. And it sounds like this. Let me give you an example. So you become aware of the emotions and you might label it, this is a moment of sadness. This is anxiety. I'm feeling fear, or I feel anger rising. For your thoughts, you might label them, this is worry, or this is planning, or this thought is self-doubt. So why does this work? Because it sounds so simple, you almost might want to dismiss it altogether, but the research is really powerful. So when you label an emotion or a thought in this way, you essentially create space between you and the emotion or the thought. In that space, you realize you are not your thoughts and you are not your anxiety, which opens you up to a whole host of other possibilities. The research shows us that mental noting of difficult emotions can actually reduce the intensity of those emotions by up to 50%. We also know from some brain scans, so fMRI imaging, that when people are engaging in mental noting, they activate that smart part of the brain, or the wise mind, as I like to call it, and you're bringing it back online. This helps you to be less reactive and see more clearly the situation that's in front of you, and you can access your executive function and your problem-solving skills so that you can move through the challenge with greater ease and effectiveness. Okay, our final practice, cross-examine your thinking. So as a former practicing attorney, this practice really speaks to me, but it's also been highly effective for me personally. Sometimes our anxious mind has really sticky thoughts. They're hard for us to get out of, the ruminations or the catastrophizing. This practice is really helpful at diffusing them. And again, it's so simple if we can just remember to use it in the moment. The next time that you are caught in anxious thought, so you're noticing those qualities of worry, rumination, catastrophizing, try asking yourself, okay, so there's one question is what most people need, and that's it to start unhooking from those thoughts. And it's, am I sure this is true? Am I sure this is true? That's often enough to break the hold that they have on you and help you realize that plants just a little bit of doubt about whether those thoughts are actually the truth. If that's not enough, you can also ask yourself questions like, is this helpful? What evidence do I have to support these thoughts? And I think what you'll find very often is that there is little to no evidence to support your thoughts. And then, is there an alternative scenario that's also possible? And just a little bonus here to take you a bit further in this practice. Once you've been able to cross-examine your thoughts and start to cast doubt on these compelling, anxious thoughts, you can then ask yourself a couple of questions to help reframe your thinking and really bring you into that resilient mindset. So 2 questions that are really powerful for this, you can ask yourself, what's possible right now? And what can I control? The brain loves this one because it's, after all, as I said earlier, it's really seeking to have some certainty and some sense of control. So when you stop focusing on all the things you can't control and all of the uncertainty, then you bring yourself into what can I control? What do I have enough information to actually go and do? You really satisfy the brain's desire for that sense of control and certainty. And you put yourself in a position where you can take positive action, whereas the anxiety often keeps us very stuck. So it's a great way to get some momentum on the resilient path. Okay, so just to come back to those 4 practices briefly, I shared with you coming to your senses with the 3x3. I shared the vagus or deep belly breathing, mental noting, name it to tame it, and then cross-examining our thoughts. So each of those are practices you can do. They're discrete practices. You can do them on their own. You don't have to do them all. And I love them because you can take them with you on the go, right? They don't require you to sit still and carve out a bunch of time to engage in them. There's also a really powerful formal mindfulness meditation practice called the stop practice that weaves them all together. And I love this because I find that if I have an acronym that helps me remember things, I'm more likely to start to tap into it and make it a habit. So I wanted to share this with you. It comes from the MBSR, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Protocol, developed by Jon Kabat-Zinn. And this can be done in a few minutes. A minute or 2 on the go, but you can also use this for a longer formal meditation. And so literally the first step is stop. So stop and sense. So the coming to your senses. The T is take a breath. So those 3 or 4 deep breaths. Observe. So begin to observe the thoughts, feelings, and sensations that are present. And as you're doing that, engaging in the mental noting and the labeling of the emotions and the thoughts. And then from that place of calm and the awareness, you're in a place where you can proceed and ask yourself one of those really effective reframing questions so that you can move forward with intention and effectiveness. I thought that it might be a nice way to wrap up if I invite you to do a formal stop meditation with me here. I hope that it enables you to head off into the rest of your day feeling restored and also empowered. So this practice is 5 minutes long, and I hope you'll join me. If you've never meditated before, I just want to assure you that if you can breathe, you can meditate. Okay. And the other thing, myth I like to debunk is that if our minds are busy and we're thinking a lot, that we're not doing it right. But there's no right or wrong way to do it. And actually, with mindfulness meditation, we're not trying to necessarily quiet the mind and stop the thoughts. What we want to do is cultivate that awareness of our thinking so that we can catch ourselves more easily and more often when we are starting to spiral into those anxious, counterproductive thoughts. So if you have a busy mind, that's okay. You can even do this practice standing up. So if you're feeling like sitting still is hard, then you can stand up for it. You can lie down. It's really up to you. Okay, so I'm going to guide us through it now. And I'm going to invite you to, if you're sitting, have your feet firmly planted on the floor. It just gives you a sense of security and stability. And you can close down your eyes. It helps us tune out the distractions around us. But if that feels triggering or uncomfortable for you, then you can absolutely keep your eyes open and just cast a soft gaze at the floor a few inches in front of your feet. And we'll just begin by becoming aware of your breath. So we're not going to change the breath at all. Just want you to become aware again, like the vagus breathing of your body breathing. Just noticing the quality of your breath. Is it rapid or slow? Deep or shallow? Now inviting you to tune into your senses. So first noting 2 or 3 things you can hear right now as you settle into your practice. And if your eyes are open, perhaps 2 or 3 things you can see. And if your eyes are closed, 2 or 3 things you can feel. So maybe it's your clothes against your skin or the feeling of your buttocks against the chair. And now coming back to your breath, beginning to deepen the breath. Inhaling for a count of 5, 3, 4, 5. And exhaling for a count of 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. And taking a couple more breath cycles like that, finding your own rhythm. And now allowing your breath to return to its natural rhythm, releasing the deep belly breaths. We're just going to begin to observe, beginning with the physical sensations in your body. So just observing what sensations are present right now and noting what you observe. So tingling, tension, warmth or coolness, any pain or discomfort. And just becoming aware. And when you're ready, bringing your attention and awareness up into your thoughts. And so you don't need to identify the exact thoughts you're thinking right now, but perhaps just noting the quality or the nature of your mind in this moment. Is it clouded or clear, foggy? Is it busy or quiet and restful? Is it worried, relaxed? So just noting silently to yourself what you observe, if anything. And if it's difficult for you to even pay attention to that, that's okay too. We don't need to strain. And releasing your awareness on your thoughts and the quality of mind, and dropping your awareness into your heart space or your chest, and even maybe your belly. And asking yourself what emotions are present in this moment. And identifying them. This is a feeling of sadness, or this is a feeling of contentment. This is a feeling of joy, or anxiety, or frustration. Noticing how you might be holding really comfortable and easy emotions at the same time as you're holding more difficult ones. And knowing that we have the capacity to do that. And if the emotions are overwhelming, which they can be if we haven't slowed down to sit with them, then just releasing your awareness on them and coming back to your breath. As we always have the breath. And now, before we complete the practice, asking yourself, with this awareness, from this place of pause, asking yourself, what do I need right now? It's a question we don't ask ourselves enough. What do I need right now? And then the really important follow-up question, which is, how will I honor what I need? How will I honor what I need? And taking whatever arises for you and prioritizing that as you move into the rest of your day. And now inviting you to begin to invite in a little bit of movement to start to come out of the practice. Wiggling your fingers and your toes, rolling your shoulders. Oftentimes the body wants to stretch or yawn. And just as we complete our time together, inviting you to reflect on what is one learning you're taking away with you today. So what felt like it resonated the most? I think sometimes we take in all of this information and almost feel like we need to take it all away and start to implement everything, which can just add more anxiety actually to our days. So just reminding you that you don't have to do it all. But if there was something that felt powerful or inspiring to you, or something that piqued your curiosity, then take that one thing away and try to implement it. I just want to thank you for being here today and let you know, so you have my email address here and my phone number. If you have any questions or want any support in integrating these practices, please know that you can send me an email at any time and I'll endeavor to respond promptly. I hope that you take good care and have a wonderful rest of your day.